Oklahoma State has a message to you, Bears fans. It's coming up on Locked On Baylor.
You are Locked On Baylor, your daily podcast on the Baylor Bears. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Bears fans, welcome to another episode of Locked On Baylor, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. Today's episode brought to you by Universal GM. I am your coach, Cam Stewart of ESPN Central Texas and the Cam Show on Rogue Media Sports Network. We are on our final stop this week of the 2024 Big 12 Truck Stop preseason tour. I have taken just enough time out of my day of thinking about what it would sound like if Conway Twitty sang You're So Vain, originally by Carly Simon, to talk to Cody Stovall of Locked On Oklahoma State. We're going to go through their high expectations for this season, how crazy these games have been in the past, why some fans are apologizing to the great Mike Gundy, and the president of the Oklahoma State fan club, which is Cody Stovall, is going to call out Bears fans, but it's for good reason, I promise. All right, so let's get into it. He's all day, O-State. Cody Stovall, Locked On Oklahoma State, which I always think is Locked On Pokes, but it is Locked On Oklahoma State, joining us now. And Cody, just tell me, we're little over a week away from the real teams playing college football, getting their season started. What is the atmosphere like around these Cowboys this year?
Well, Cameron, thanks very much for having me, first of all. Second of all, I would like to just throw this thing out there. There has never been more excitement or anticipatory, anxiousness than any time before. This is that year. This is that season when you return 21 returning starters, 90% of your roster, 36 some odd seniors, 16 redshirt juniors. If there's not a better year to win it, I don't know if we ever will, buddy.
And it's kind of like Baylor in that way when you talk about most anticipated, because obviously Oklahoma State's had a ton of success the last 10 years or even further in the Mike Gundy era, but usually we're coming out of nowhere. You know what I mean? We're sneaking up on teams and it's like, oh my gosh, where is this Oklahoma State team come from? Where's this Baylor team come from? So it's kind of rare to actually have that anticipation. And do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing at the end of the day for this team and this head coach?
Well, I think, typically speaking, this much excitement, it can be negative, right? It can be the rat poison that we've heard several coaches, including Mike Gundy, mention over the years. But I think it comes down to the leadership, right? So we've had teams that are very talented in the past, but I don't know that they were led by this many upperclassmen. Not just that, dude. When you're talking to the 35, 36 seniors, 90% of them are 6th year, 7th year guys. So it's not just seniors that have been through the program. Yeah. Exactly. So, yeah, we've got a roster full of potential AARP members right now. And for that reason, I don't see us overlooking people like South Dakota State. It's a phenomenal ball club, won 29 games in a row, back-to-back FCS national titles. But because of that and because of the senior leadership, I don't think that we're going to get caught flat-footed at any time this season. That's the difference, right? We actually have the senior leadership to keep the locker room in check, to not let the distractions get in the way.
And speaking of leadership, Mike Gundy is still the leader of the football program. And you had a special episode out recently thanking Mike Gundy. I think some people are apologizing to Mike Gundy from some of the things that have been in the discourse about him and this Oklahoma State program over the last few years. What inspired that? I don't want to say it was a rant because it was good. It was fun. What inspired that expounding of thanks to Mike Gundy?
Primarily just the vitriol that he received over it. This is multiple times now he's made comments in this offseason that may be slightly outlandish, but they're factual. They're accurate, right? I understand that everybody likes to pretend that collegiate athletes do not participate in drinking alcohol, but surprise, they kind of do. So the fact that Mike Gundy, I know, the fact that he's willing to point it out and make a comment, it was tongue in cheek, maybe it was taken out of context, but I appreciated it. It was the truth. And now with the QR code and everything else, this is Mike Gundy adapting to the new landscape of college football, which is something that we're not seeing Dabo Swinney do. See, 4 years ago, Mike Gundy and Dabo Swinney were two of the most vocal saying, I don't like this. I don't like the transfers. I don't like the NIL. I don't want to be a part of any of it, right? Mm-hmm. Now Mike Gundy's completely shifted his tune. He found a way to kind of fall in love with the game again last season, and you're seeing that this year. This is a youthful, exuberant Mike Gundy that we have never seen since he was yelling, I'm a man, I'm 40.
Which is now 17 years ago, by the way. That's crazy. But I think there's actually, because I'm doing Locked On Baylor here, Cody, I think there is some similarities there with what we've seen at Baylor, because, you know, Dabo is kind of the poster child of anti-NIL right now, right? I mean, he will not shut up about it. Nick Saban could be up there. He's a guy who literally retired basically because of it. And then the two other people you heard it from in our conference were Mike Gundy and Dave Aranda. The difference is they are now, you know, whatever they're saying doesn't really matter now because there's action. There is the QR code. There is a huge NIL fund going on at Oklahoma State. There is now the We Pay Players shirts at Baylor. So, I mean, is that kind of the best of both worlds from a fan standpoint of like, yeah, I want my coach to just be worried about coaching ball, but I also don't want him to be this whiny word I can't say on Locked On Baylor like Dabo Swinney is, and actually putting some action into this adapting college football world?
I think it's absolutely pivotal that Mike Gundy be the way that he is, because again, in today's landscape, high school recruits, transfers, they're not picking the school anymore, right? Back in the day, people wanted to go to Ohio State, or they wanted to go to Michigan. They wanted to go to Notre Dame. Now it's more about the relationships. It's more about the coaches. And can you develop me faster than everybody else? Can you be the staff? Can you be the nutrition, the weight gain? Can you be the individuals that can help me get to the NFL quicker than all the other teams that are courting me? That's basically what it boils down to. And we get coaches that say random stuff all the time that means absolutely nothing. And then as fan bases across the country, we all typically complain that our coaches give us coach speak and they never really tell us anything. But then when you have coaches that do divulge plenty of information, like Kyle Whittingham, like Mike Gundy this season, they catch a lot of flack for it. So that's where the rant came from, dude, because I was, a year and a half ago, I was on if Mike Gundy doesn't fix this, he needs to be put on a 1-year deal contract. I was one of those individuals. So to see Mike Gundy dive back in the way that he did and start working 13, 14 hours and turn it around, I think that he is deserved as much of the accolades, just as much as he deserves people having his back when he does do the right thing.
And what's kind of funny about it, because there was a lot of vitriol. I mean, you were not the only person saying that. It was all around Oklahoma State fans and seemingly all around the Big 12. I look back to last summer where it was like, is Oklahoma State even recruiting? Like, the recruiting numbers are terrible. And then they go to the Big 12 championship game. So it's almost like we're calling for Mike Gundy's job, and then he proves why he's still a great head coach. But first, I got to tell you about one of our new sponsors, and that is Ultimate College Football Head Coach and a proud sponsor of today's video. I want to take a moment, give you a heads up. This is brand new mobile game. I think you guys are going to love it just as much as I do. Okay. In this game, you get to step into the shoes of Dave Aranda and lead your college football program to glory. It's tough to criticize him until you step in his shoes. Could you imagine actually being Dave Aranda out there? That'd be a ton of fun. You're recruiting players, hiring coaching staff, overseeing the training camps, and handling scholarships. You control every crucial detail of the program. It's all in your hands. And here's what I really love about the game is that you're responsible for calling the plays on offense. Your strategy will not only determine the success of your football season, but it's going to shape the future and the legacy of your program. Ultimate College Football Head Coach is completely free, has no ads, and is 100% playable offline. You can play on the go as you want and when you want to. And of course, we got a special offer for you guys, okay? Use the promo code LOCKEDONCFB, all caps, inside the game store to receive a free boost to your program, which better be Baylor. Make sure to take advantage of this perk and get your team off to a strong start. So download the game. You visit ultimate-cfb.com ultimate-cfb.com, or look it up in the app stores. Ultimate College Football Head Coach. Begin your coaching legacy today. Ollie Gordon. He's not bad. He's an all right player. He returns with the most.
He's all right. He's all right.
Most yards in the country last year, 1,700 yards, and his whole offensive line is coming back. Is this the best chance Oklahoma State has had for a Heisman Trophy winner since Justin Blackman?
Yeah, 100%. Right? It's the best chance we have for somebody to end up in New York. It's the best chance we have to win the Big 12 title. It's the best chance we have to make the playoff. Everything is lining up for us this season. And I'll tell you what, Cam, one of the things that I don't think gets talked about enough across the landscape of college football is the retention and the staff. So that's another thing that I think we got to give credit Mike Gundy for. If you look at Oklahoma State, their staff members, 12 years, 14 years, 17 years, 19 years, 9 years, that is by and large what you're going to get out of Oklahoma State. So the fact that Mike Gundy has transformed Oklahoma State into a destination place for coaches, right? Oklahoma State used to be a jump-off school.
Yeah.
It is what it is. People would come to Oklahoma State to kind of, make a name for themselves, and then they would leave. They're not leaving anymore. The only person that has left in the last 8 years of real note is Jim Knowles. And we'll never have Ohio State money no matter what happens. So occasionally we might lose a dude to an Ohio State or a Michigan or a Bama. And you know what? That's okay.
And that is something that kind of gets lost. That's really impressive for a team that has made the Big 12 championship game 2 of the last 3 seasons, right? 2 of the last 4 seasons. Like that's 2 of the last 3. I had that right. 2 of the last 3. There we go. 2 of the last 3 seasons. And like you mentioned, there is a history there of being a jumping off point with Jimmy Johnson and Les Miles, and you can go all the way down the list of Oklahoma State coaches who then go on to greater things. And I think that is important. And looking at you, we talk about so much retention in this team and obviously how good the running game could be specifically with Ollie Gordon back there. But one of the big struggles last year was defensively and specifically in coverage. We're talking in the 100s of explosive plays allowed and passing yards allowed and things like that from Oklahoma State. And they went out and they lost one of their starting corners in the transfer portal. Is that still an area of concern for the Cowboys going into this season?
Depth at corner, I think numerically speaking, is going to be a little bit of a concern. I think you could say the same to some degree, numerically speaking, when it comes to wide receiver. But talent is not going to be an issue. And here's the biggest thing for me when it comes to this defense. Last year was year 1 of Brian Nardo's 3-3-5, right? So there was a decent amount of things in communication that we had to get ironed out. Kendall Daniels was a freshman All-American as a safety. Last season, he had to be the one that disseminated all the information for all the shifts and everything, and you saw a lack of production from him because of it. This year, he's up to 245 pounds. We've put him back up to the box. He's going to play linebacker. So you have Nick Martin, Colin Oliver, and Kendall Daniels now playing linebacker. That in and of itself is going to do wonders. But if I could add to that, last year, the defensive line, everything was predicated upon the KISS method, right? Keep it simple, stupid, a.k.a. just dominate this area. Don't try to get cute. Don't try to get sacks, tackles for loss. Just dominate a couple dudes, eat up some double teams, and let the guys behind you rack up the stats, which is what happened, right? Look at Nick Martin. This year, the D-line is asked to do significantly more, and we're going to mess with a lot of four-man front. So we're going to get Colin Oliver back to rushing the quarterback. That is what I think is going to make the difference this season. If your quarterback can't get the ball off in under 4 seconds, you're probably going to be in for a long day.
Now let's look at the quarterback from your guys' standpoint. Alan Bowman, who we made the joke about earlier, 19th grade. He's got all kinds of experience, man. And we hear this all the time in the NFL. I'm going to bring it to the college football world, but we hear in the NFL, that team's good, but the quarterback's not good enough to win anything. You guys were in Arlington last year, so it's not like you're far off. Is Alan Bowman good enough to lead a team to the Big 12 championship?
If he improves in the pocket, absolutely, right? That was his biggest thing. He still was able to throw for like 3,100 yards. It was the interceptions to touchdown ratio being pretty much dead even at 500. That was the obstacle. And realistically, whenever we asked him to do more, that's whenever we saw the interceptions peak up. Well, it's because fundamentally inside the pocket, he had this propensity to bail and start running like he was athletic. I don't know why. Okay. But that was his natural inclination, was 1, 2, 3, get the heck out of here. Thus far, throughout spring and fall, that's not happening anymore. Now, we don't have defenses diving through, jackknifing, diving at the ankles and stuff. So that could change whenever the bullets start flying, as they say. But in the small sample size of the spring and the fall, we can compare it to last year. And last year, there's a light years differentiation between the two, which is why last year was a competition and this year it's his ball club. And furthermore, I will add, we don't need a world beater, buddy. When you have 10 dudes returning on offense and you have basically 11 of your guys returning on defense, right? Because we do bring Lyric Rawls back, who was the starter who got hurt like week 4 last year. So whenever you combine all of that, I just don't see very many teams that are going to be able to hang with us for 4 quarters.
Okay, so that said, you've got the best running back in the country. You've got the offensive line coming back. You got weapons coming back. You got a quarterback that's good enough and a defense that's good enough. So, Cody, answer me this, because I'm sure your fans have tried to rack their brains around it too. Why am I only hearing about Utah and Kansas State and Kansas in terms of teams that can win the Big 12? Why am I not hearing about Oklahoma State before the first football's kicked?
Well, as much as I would like to hoot and howl at the moon about it, I do think that perception plays a little bit of a factor here. And I've said it before because it's fair. The perception of Oklahoma State is a team that can kind of get there, but they'll never get over that next hump, right? And we're 1-9 in Big 12 title games, so we can't say that that's not a false, sense of reasoning that people would have. I think that's it. It's perception. The perception is Oklahoma State can get there, but they can never win it there. And it's fair, right? This is the season that we have to break through that ceiling. We can get to the Big 12 title game. We're really good at getting there. We're just really bad at winning it. So we have to change that narrative. And to me, again, it's got to be this season. Cam, I've been going to games, had season tickets since the mid-'90s. I cannot recall a single time in my life, high school, college, or the NFL, that I've seen 21 returning starters. It's probably never going to happen again. So if we don't capitalize on it this season, I just don't know when it's going to happen.
So then what needs to change from last year? Because obviously it was a damn fine team. It was a slow start, but they rallied back and got to Arlington. So what is the biggest change? And maybe it's already something you've already mentioned that needs to change for this year's team to get over that hump and get that Big 12 championship win.
Our offensive coordinator, Casey Dunn, needs to find a way to go dig a pair of cojones out of somebody's purse and make this thing happen. The conservative play calling, it's got to stop. Okay, so people always want to talk about the South Alabama game, as they should. We deserve to get ridiculed for that. But there was a couple Okies, right, that were on the South Alabama roster. Post-game, they talked about how they knew all of our route trees before the play even happened. So they could sit back and they could identify different slot receivers in motion and identify what route concepts that were going to be. That's why we lost to South Alabama, because they knew the offense as good as we knew the offense, and they just told their players to sit in certain areas. And Casey Dunn didn't make that adjustment, right? So if Casey Dunn is going to, do anything, he's got to come with a lot more this season. He's got to be more aggressive. He's got to be willing to allow the wide receivers and Alan Bowman to do a little bit more. I think, honestly, it's one of those things that the only way this season goes south is if we get in our own way. And by we, I primarily mean Casey Dunn.
Today's episode is also brought to you by Gametime, and it is the only place I go to buy tickets. So look, if you're going for homecoming, Baylor, Oklahoma State, Gametime is the place to go. And there's a few different reasons for that. The first one being, I don't love the hassle. I don't love having the hassle to get my tickets, and Gametime takes the hassle out of it. It's also the best place for last-minute tickets, where you can save up to 60% on the last-minute tickets for anything that needs a ticket, okay? Sports games, concerts, comedy shows, anything you're looking for, Gametime is the place for last minute, but you can buy them ahead of time as well, because also when you go into the app, you can see the view from your seats. You can see the all-in pricing, so you know that the price you see is the price you're going to pay. There's not all the hidden fees that all these other companies have. And it's backed by the Gametime lowest price guarantee, or Gametime is going to credit you 110% of the difference. It is the best ticket buying experience I have ever had. So go download the app right now, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off your first purchase. Once again, you're going to create the Gametime app, create an account. You're not going to create the app. You're going to go to the app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off your first purchase. Gametime. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Sometimes, Cody, I will try to force some rivalries in here, Baylor versus whomever. We're not fooling anybody. Oklahoma State's not our big rival, nor are we your big rival. But there have been some fun matchups between these two teams the last 10 or 12 years, and it was weird to not have each other on the schedule last year. So with some of the weird matchups that have been, the Big 12 championship game, Baylor's first win in Stillwater in forever, a couple of blowouts mixed in there, that weirdly very entertaining game in 2022, the last time we matched up. How fun is it to get that back on the schedule of like Baylor, Oklahoma State? Anything can happen.
I mean, yeah, no, I think it's great. And of course, we do have a little bit of redemption. Okay.
Yeah.
We have not forgot about 2021.
Although you won after. Yeah.
I will say it seems like some of the fan base in Waco has forgot that y'all just won a Big 12 title not too long ago. Now, I swear, if there's one thing I can say to Waco Nation, it is get your daggone butts in the seats. How can y'all be this good and not fill out the stadium? That is the most mind-blowing thing to me in the world. And this is coming from an Oklahoma State fan, where we could only sell out our stadium for Bedlam and Texas and games like that. So I'm not up here on my high horse, but I am saying that even whenever you guys are playing a top 5 team, it doesn't matter. That stadium should be sold out. You have one of the nicest stadiums in America, and y'all don't utilize it. That's my little Baylor rant.
Okay. A little bit louder for the people in the back. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, I think it's wonderful that they're in the conference. And you know what? To be honest with you, I think some Oklahoma State fans are slightly envious of Baylor. See, we've been kind of the exact opposite. You guys pop up and you're really, really, really good, and then you fall back down to 4 wins, and then you're really, really good again. It's just Oklahoma State's pretty consistent, right?
Yeah.
8 wins, 9 wins, 10 wins, 8 wins, 11 wins, 8 wins, 12 wins. We're pretty consistent, but we don't have the titles. So, I don't think that we would like falling down to like 4 or 5 win seasons, but at the same time, those 12 win seasons that come with trophies are kind of cool, man.
Pretty good. It feels like the classic, like, is it better to have loved and lost or to not loved at all?
Yeah.
Would you rather have the mark and consistency or have some championships mixed in there? So I think we know your answer anyway, but
there you go.
Things are looking pretty good. Before I get out of here, the other thing I ask about is, when I'm trying to force rivalries is, do you feel, because I'll ask it to you this way, because Oklahoma State has a very legitimate chance to win the conference. Do you feel that extra chip on the shoulder because Utah is the favorite and Oklahoma State is a big part of the Hateful Eight and trying to carry the traditionalism of this conference? Do you feel that like hey, we're happy that you're here, but wait your turn?
Absolutely. It's difficult for anybody to say that the future of anything hinges on one game, but this Utah versus Oklahoma State matchup has been built up by not necessarily even us, right? Outside media, because of the Utah love. The irony is Utah and Oklahoma State are pretty much identical. When you look at Kyle Whittingham's record and Mike Gundy has him by like 3 wins. They have the exact same number of losses. They started literally like 45 days apart from each other, and the records are the same. The bowl records are pretty comparable. Oklahoma State has a little bit of an edge there, but they have a 50-year-old quarterback. We have a 50-year-old quarterback. They return some dudes. We return way more. So, yeah, it is disrespectful that nobody's talking about Oklahoma State as much as they should be, because you are right. The conversation is Utah, K-State, and maybe Oklahoma State, maybe Iowa State, maybe West Virginia. And trust and believe, I think the locker room knows that as well.
And it does feel weird. Like, I like Iowa State and West Virginia as dark horses. I really do. But it just doesn't feel like Oklahoma State should be on that same plane. Like, I don't know. Maybe that's just me, creature of the moment, because I got you in front of me and I just want to say such nice things. But Cody Stovall, he's running Locked On Oklahoma State, one of the most entertaining shows that we have on our network. Cody, how can they find your work and how can they get involved in the comment section probably in the weeks leading up to the Oklahoma State game?
Absolutely. Yeah. Go check out the daily Locked On Oklahoma State show. Of course, you can find me on X at Aldeo State. I do tinker around to some degree on Facebook and Instagram, and that is O State All Day as opposed to All Day O State, right?
Gotcha.
And then for the show, I do have some tasty nuggets coming up, because you better believe I've got something in the pipeline for Mr. Paul Feinbaum. So it's going to be a fun one. And I also have a former Cowboy wide receiver on the show today to kind of break down some of the bold takes on the season.
I like that. Before I get you out of here, though, I have to ask, since you are looking at this team as a possible Big 12 champion, are you mentally getting ready for a playoff game in Stillwater?
I am, ironically enough. See, I seem to be somewhat the minority here, but of course you want the first 4 seeds being a bye, right? Pretty cool. I get it. It's important. But I secretly hope that we end up as a 5 seed, because I want to host a playoff game at Boone Pickens Stadium. To me, that is the most exciting part of the extended playoff, is the fact that teams 5 through 9 get to host a playoff game in their home stadium. That is, to me, cooler than getting a bye. So
way cooler.
Maybe I'm crazy, okay? But give me a playoff game in Stillwater, win, lose, or draw. I actually don't even care at that point in time. I just want it to happen, and I want to be part of the experience.
Yeah, like this year, that is the coolest opportunity ever. To be one of the first teams to host it, I think that's so cool. Cody, thanks so much for stopping by. Appreciate you. Best of luck to the Pokes all the way up until whatever that is, late October when you come to Waco.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, brother. I greatly appreciate it. And hey, I will say, Drake Toll, right? He's like the heaviest hitter in the game. Phenomenal job with you stepping up and filling those shoes. Big shoes to fill, but you've done a remarkable job, brother, man. Now, again, tell your fan base to fill out the stadium, all right? So you can bring it to the next level, buddy.
Let's go. Thank you, Cody. Really appreciate you having you on.
Yes, sir. God bless. Go Pokes. Thanks, Cam.
Special thank you once again to Cody Stovall, one of the absolute best that we have, and he's covering Locked On Oklahoma State. Definitely recommend going and checking him out. And sometimes Baylor fans need to hear this, calling him out, saying we need some more people at this beautiful stadium that we've got down here in Waco. And he's absolutely right. So thanks once again to Cody. We will be back on Monday, and it will be game week the next time we are talking, folks. Oh, man, I cannot wait. We can watch Charleston State on national TV tomorrow to get our scouting done for that game next week. And if you need a little more scouting or you didn't end up watching them, guess what? I'll put it on my amateur scout hat. We're going to be talking about the Texans all week long, leading up to week number 1 for the Baylor Bears in what is promising to be a very intriguing 2024 football season, if nothing else. Be sure to like and subscribe. Get involved down in the comment section below. Hit that notification bell to get notified every time we're dropping an episode here on YouTube. And they're all going to wherever you get your podcasts as well. And it's all the way free. So thank you guys so much for making it your first listen today and every week. Until next time, when it is game week, this has been Locked On Baylor.